Hello, I'm Faye James in Sydney talking to Renee Leith-Manos about nutrition and wellness within the world of travel.
Hello, my name is Renee Leith-Manos. Welcome to this podcast, Where to From Here, featuring conversations about luxury travel and how it's changing in every pocket of the globe. Hello, my name is Renee Leith-Manos, and one of my passions for many years, as well as travel, is wellness. So the ultimate tonic for me is going to a retreat, as you can see on my website, and focusing on both travel and wellness. And today's guest, Faye James, is an Australian nutritionist who'll be going to Thailand soon to Amatara, where she will be hosting a retreat, I'm guessing, focusing on nutrition. Faye was born in England, but she actually lives in Australia, and she has a fantastic book that she's quite well known for called The Long Life Plan. So that gives you a bit of insight into her approach to nutrition. She believes that by eating better, we can live longer. She's also got a weight loss program and a recipe book, The 10-10 Diet, which was published in 2019. Faye has dedicated herself to solving menopausal problems in more recent years and addressing nutrition around it and giving women lots of information so they don't put on weight in their midriff, which is so common during menopause. So I can't wait to hear about that as well. She also has a beautiful website, which I've spent some time on this morning, where she actually shows videos of these fantastic recipes. The beetroot chocolate brownie recipe was one that certainly caught my eye. So without further ado, Faye, welcome to the show. Now, I know you're an advocate of fresh food made from scratch. Why do we put on weight when we travel? And what tips do you have to avoid this, given it can be quite challenging to, obviously make food from scratch when you're traveling?
100%. When we travel, we often eat out, which is normal. But this often causes us to choose the sort of processed, highly the sort of fatty foods, the sugary foods. We want to treat ourselves. When we're on holiday, we kind of like throw our diet out the window and we say, oh, wait, I'll just have the extra dessert. Oh, I'll have that bowl of chips. I'll have the extra glass of wine, which is fine, but this can cause unnecessary weight gain. So when going on holiday, I always advise to try and choose the more healthy versions on the menu. So opt for the salads, try to sort of, minimize how much alcohol you're having. If you're going to go for dessert, go for something which is light. Opt for sort of the lean proteins rather than the sort of, highly processed foods. Just kind of be mindful of what you're eating when you're on holiday. I know that sounds a little bit rigid, but it's also just good to just keep mindful when on holiday.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what's your take on intermittent fasting? I'm asking because I travel a lot, and I actually find that really helps me a lot when I'm traveling.
Yeah, 100%. It really does help. So I have a really good trick, because a lot of people say, oh, intermittent fast, it's so hard because I can't have breakfast, this and that. But you can actually. So what you need to do is really have a minimum of 12 hours of not eating. So that means that you can stop eating at, say, 6 p.m. and then you can have your first meal at 6 a.m. So you've still got that 12-hour fast. And that's really when you're sleeping, right? So you stop eating at 6 p.m. You sort of then just go on to herbal teas, avoid any sort of snacking, late night snacking, and then you go to bed and wake up, and then you can still have your 6 a.m. breakfast, which is super easy to follow, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, I'm making it hard for myself.
You are. A lot of people do think it's, because a lot of celebrities have talked about intermittent fasting, right? And they sort of say, oh yeah, I don't start my first meal until 2 p.m. And that's really quite sort of rigid and unnecessary. You just need that 12 hours minimum. Ideally, it's 14 hours to 16 hours, but you can still get maximum benefits with 12 hours.
Yeah, brilliant. Especially, that sounds, makes perfect sense. I was going to say, especially when you're traveling and breakfast is included.
Yeah, I know. I know when you're traveling, you're like, I must have that breakfast, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And Faye, how did you get into nutrition? Because I know that you're a journalist as well.
Yeah. So I think it really stems from my family. They're very much They're really healthy. They're sort of like English hippies that sort of started on lots of vegan, plant-based foods, cooking from scratch, making their own bread, making their own hummus, making their own cookies. And
Beautiful.
I kind of really sort of realized that these are the fundamentals in health, right? It's all about going back to sort of the old times and cooking from scratch, because the problem today is that we eat so much processed foods that, and hidden sugars, hidden trans fats, oat milk, for example, you think is a health food, but it actually has got a lot of, it's like a trans fat in it. It's got the seed oils. If you make your own oat milk, it's so much healthier for you. If you make your own cookies, if you make your own bread, you can really control how much sugar and fat is going into your foods. So I think that's where I sort of really sparked an interest, because I realized that I have all these tips that I've grown up with and that I can teach people, and it's a great benefit, because you really are what you eat. That's my sort of
Yeah, no,
main philosophy.
absolutely. And you've touched on something there in terms of, people's perception of foods
Yeah,
being one thing, perhaps healthy, and they're not. Is
yeah.
that the biggest challenge that the Western world is facing in terms of nutrition right now? Or if not, what is it?
100%. Yeah, you've got a lot of these sort of, oh look, this is vegan, this is plant-based, this is a healthy protein bar. But when you actually look at the actual ingredients, they're stuffed full of all these hidden nasties that you just don't need. And it's really because you need a longer shelf life, right? When it goes to the supermarket, it's got to stay on shelf as long as possible, and that goes for everything that's in the supermarket, right? So from
Mm.
bread to cream cheese to mayonnaise, all these things that you can actually make at home, and store in your fridge, and they may not have the same set shelf life, but they're so much healthier than buying in
Mm.
store. And the thing is that we live in this sort of fast society, right? We're on our phones all the time. We're busy, and we reach for, okay, we've got mayonnaise, quick, get some bread, get some ham, get some lettuce, and throw it in. You think, oh, it's a fairly healthy sandwich, right? Because it's just like a ham, mayonnaise, and lettuce sandwich. Maybe you buy wholemeal bread and you think, yeah, that's healthy. But when you actually dissect it, the mayonnaise is full of nasties. The ham is processed. The lettuce is probably fine, but then the bread is also full of sugar and salt, and some more processed stuff. And if you just make your own brown bread,
Scary.
you make your own
When you
mayonnaise.
put it like that, it's quite scary.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of my sort of teaching is all about, hey, let's go back to basics. Let's make our own bread. It's not that difficult. I make my own sourdough every Sunday, and I have my batch cooking sessions where I make my own mayonnaise, I make my own dressing, I make everything I possibly can from scratch. And that is really the key, is going back to those basics. And that's our problem, is that we live in this fast-paced society where we grab everything from the shelf.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not good. It's not good. And are there locations in the world where people eat the healthiest? I mean, I'm really
Yes.
interested in what you're saying about making things from scratch, because I've
Yeah.
never done that. I
Oh,
consider myself really healthy. I've never
yeah.
made a mayonnaise before. And I'm trying to think, are there locations in the world where people actually do that as sort of a matter of course?
100%.
Or
Yeah. Yeah. We've heard a lot of longevity experts talk about blue zones like Japan, Sardinia,
yes.
Italy, Okinawa. And these are regions where they live significantly longer. And that's because most of their diet is plant-based. And it's just that regular physical activity is about cooking from scratch. It's those strong community bonds. It's that sense of purpose. And it's just, that all those elements that sort of going back to sort of the very simple basics is why they're living longer.
Right. Just actual nutrition. It just makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Nutrition is also
Wow.
about sort of making, every meal that they have is sort of almost a ceremony, right? So your lunch, you spend a long time making your lunch, and then you also spend a long time eating it. And it's sort of a real sort of bringing the family together. Everyone eats lunch together. You have a conversation. You take your time. It's not rushed. And I know those are sort of idealistic ways to live, but if we can for example, at least spend a Sunday where we all get together as a family. We cook things from scratch. We sit down and have a real mindful meal. It makes a huge difference to our day to day and how long we live.
Wow, that's profound. And in terms of retreats, I know you've got one coming up in Phuket at Amatara, which sounds
Yes,
amazing.
yes.
How does that dovetail into your thinking? I mean, is that where someone goes to actually learn all this stuff and do a reset on
Yeah.
the way that they're eating, or?
Yes, yes. So on this wellness retreat, you will indulge in cooking lessons, in massages, in yoga, mindfulness, all these things which will really help go back to the simple basics, reset, re-energize, particularly for women that are going through perimenopause or menopause, which is a time in our lives where we can really suffer from a whole host of symptoms like mood swings, weight gain, sleeplessness, where we most need to kind of go back to the simple basics that I'm talking about.
Right.
Mm.
So it can really help menopause, actually eating better.
Yes, 100%. My book, The Menopause Diet, is all about that and how, I might get shot down for this, but I'm not a big fan of HRT. I know that it has a place for some women that
Yes.
really are suffering really bad symptoms during menopause or perimenopause. But if you can try and go back to the basics of a really good, fundamental, healthy diet, a healthy exercise routine, a healthy stress routine, anti-stress routine, a healthy sleep routine, all these elements first before you dive into sort of, grabbing the HRT quick fix quick fix method. Just try all these other elements first and then see how you go. I sort of have switched up my diet. I'm doing more strength training. I'm really mindful of my sleep routine. I'm really mindful of my stress routine. And I've literally, started to feel symptoms and then sort of nipping them in the bud with these elements have really, really helped.
Amazing. Can you tell me something? Because
Mm.
you're talking about HRT in the medical world.
Mm.
Why isn't nutrition a mandatory part of medical education for
Oh my
doctors?
God, yeah, don't get me started. One of the things that really upsets me is a couple of times I was bitten by a spider a couple of years ago. And it wasn't a poisonous spider, it was just a black spider, but it managed to get some bacteria into my bloodstream, and I was quite seriously ill because I almost had sepsis in my system. My whole arm blew up. And the first thing they did was pump me full of antibiotics and give me this revolting gross food. And I was stuck in hospital for a week and I was so miserable. And I was like, why don't we have like some foods which can really help build my immune system right now? All I've got is this horrible, revolting processed food, which is just going to make my healing process longer. Why don't we like why is nutrition not the fundamental part of our healing process? And it's not. It really isn't. And I feel like people could leave hospital so much earlier if we had really good nutritious food to help our healing process. My mother, she suffered
And
from.
there are cases where it makes people worse.
Yes, yes.
I mean, I remember even, having my twins, which was a lot of years ago now,
Yeah.
but that is a time when you really need some clean food. I mean, I've been living in Asia the last few years and they have a very strict diet of just soups after a woman gives birth because your body has to go back to what it was and shed and all of that.
Mm,
And yet, I was sitting in hospital eating the worst food imaginable.
mm. I know it just
So
it
it's,
hurts my soul. It really does, and I just feel that
no,
there's
I
not enough of
agree.
action in the world. Is that why are we not in hospitals really making this a main focus?
Priority. Yeah.
And
No,
if they
I'm with
understood
you.
that, I don't think in most medical training there is not enough about nutrition and the benefits of nutrition.
So why have you chosen Phuket as the destination at Amatara for your retreat?
Ah, I love Phuket. It's got some stunning beaches. It's got a lovely tranquil atmosphere. It's the perfect setting for a wellness retreat. I chose Amatara because it offers these fantastic spa facilities. It's got fresh, nutritious cuisine that aligns with my philosophy of healing through food. It's a place where you can relax, you can reset and focus on your health. And it's just, it just aligns so well with what I believe in.
Yeah, beautiful. And I know you said it's there's a focus on menopause there, but
Yeah.
can women take their partners? And also this menopause issue, do men go through something in middle age in terms of, putting on weight and
Yeah.
nutrition affecting their health?
Yeah, they do. They go through something called andropause, and this is where basically their testosterone levels decline. And they can, they can find that they start to get a bit of a midriff, a bit of weight around their boobs, and they just feel like their mood changes too, because when your testosterone levels decline, like women's estrogen levels decline in menopause, the mood just your general mood changes. So yes, I mean, as women have to change their diet and exercise, so do men. My husband, for example, gets daily little reminders of how much protein he's having, and make sure he has lots of veggies and fruit and fiber, and make sure he does his strength training, all these things too, because we both have to be mindful of our diet and exercise.
Yeah, interesting. And getting back to the travel topic, long haul flights, how and why do we get bloated on those flights? And again, what are your tips for
Yeah.
avoiding, putting on weight actually on long flights?
Yes, a bit like when we go on holiday, we get on the flight, and the first thing we go is we grab for the peanuts, and we say, oh, let's have that vodka and tonic, or we have the glass of wine, what have you. And what this does, it causes us to become restore, retain water, and it causes us to bloat.
Right.
And it's just on a flight, what I try to do, and it does sound a bit regimented, but it really, really helps with jet lag, is that I try to avoid any meals that are given to me. So,
I do the same thing.
yeah, I stick to a piece of fruit and water, and then just try and sleep as much as possible, because your body's going through different time zones. So often when you jump on a flight, it might be 11 p.m. and they're serving you dinner. And who eats dinner at 11 p.m., right? And they serve you maybe a curry with rice and a cake and loads of wine and everything. What this is going to do is going to cause us all sorts of indigestion issues, because it's late at night. A lot of the foods are high in salt and sugar. So then it causes us to retain the water. And then the alcohol as well just makes us dehydrated. So 11 o'clock, avoid that meal, go to sleep. And then when breakfast is served in the morning, just pick the fruit and the water, and those simple tips will avoid jet lag for sure.
Yeah. See, I have a rule that I only eat on the ground, even if I'm
Yeah,
traveling first class and they've got all of that, because it's very tempting, isn't it? Because I mean that when
yeah,
they actually make your eggs fresh and everything, but the truth is they don't taste that great.
no, because again,
It's
it's the
just not
same.
worth it.
Yeah, it's the same thing. If you think about what has to go through the foods to stay on the shelf in store, right? It's the same with aeroplane food, right? They need to put in lots of different types of nasties, preservatives. They've got to heat up in the microwave, all those things, which, is not good, clean food, to be honest with you. You're better off almost grabbing a salad or some sushi in one of the cafeterias and eating that instead.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And
Mm,
stress and nutrition, how are
yeah.
they linked?
Wow. The link between stress and nutrition is huge. What happens when we're highly stressed, we produce lots of cortisol, which can have all sorts of effects on our body. We tend to, when our cortisol levels are high, we tend to store a lot of puffiness in the face, around the midriff. We tend to we can emotionally eat when we're stressed. So we some people sort of find that, to alleviate stress, they might go for a packet of chips or chocolate, what have
Yeah,
you.
right.
So it kind of increases emotional eating, but also that cortisol, spiking the cortisol levels, has all sorts of problems on just the way that we're retaining fat around our bodies. And you'll find
Mm.
that if sometimes you go on holiday and you're less stressed, right? And immediately you can feel less bloated, and that is because your cortisol levels are dropping.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
Right. I mean, it's fascinating because a lot of women sort of think, oh, surely it's just diet and exercise, but it's not. It's diet, exercise, sleep, and stress are the four main components that really affect
And
our.
they all
Yeah,
and they all affect come into play with
yeah,
menopause as well. Yeah.
yeah, correct. So even if you can have the healthiest diet, this is something that I have to tell myself as well because I'm quite a high stress. I've got a quite high stress personality, and I have to keep telling myself I need to find time for those mindfulness exercises. I need to find time to really wind down. I need to find time to make sure I've got a good sleep routine. All these things that impact my stress levels. Because if I don't, I'm just going to retain weight. I'm going to feel icky. I'm not going to benefit and absorb the nutrients that I would have if I was calm and relaxed. All these things. So stress is absolutely fundamental. It's one of the things where I think it's the hidden secret to weight loss is actually
Yeah.
alleviating stress.
Um, and the weight that women gain
Yeah.
during menopause in the midriff, is that a cortisol issue?
It can be a cortisol issue, but mainly is the dropping in estrogen levels. So that causes the
Right.
weight gain. Yeah, yeah.
So how do you avoid that?
Yes. So it's about again going back to more of a plant-based diet. So eating foods rather than opting for processed foods. You're going back to eating from scratch, going for the plant-based foods. So like tofu, tempeh, so estrogen-rich foods. It's about
Ah,
avoiding or helping eat estrogen rich foods, but also avoiding foods that will increase stress levels or increase weight. It's a lot of combination of factors, but it does
yeah.
really dial back down to what you're eating in your day-to-day diet. The Mediterranean diet is probably the best example of the kind of key diet we need to follow when going through menopause. So that's lots of oily fish, lots of leafy greens, lots of whole grains, and then also those plant-based foods that we really need to keep bringing back into our diet.
Yeah. So really, you're really paring things back and making it all very simple.
Yes, yes,
That's what I'm hearing.
yeah, it is. It
And
is about going back to the simple things in life, um, and that sounds too easy, but it is that easy, and I think that too many people try to make it a complex issue when it's not. It's not. It should be easy. It should be straightforward, and this is what I want to teach on the resort. Is the retreat that I'm running is really about kind of going back to those simple tools that you can take home with you that will really help you for years and beyond. That you're not just going to a retreat and forgetting everything. You're going home with some real key educational tips that you can follow through for the rest of your life and manage your symptoms easily.
yeah, no, absolutely. But look, I could talk to you all day. I'm sure you have a lot of other travel tips for us, but that's all we have time for now. But we ask everyone where to from here, and maybe you can talk to us about what you're going to eat today. I'm fascinated, to be honest.
I'm planning the menopause wellness retreat. I'm busy doing that, and I'm really excited to invite women to come and join me on the retreat and really get to learn some key tips and tricks for menopause and beyond.
Fantastic. That's amazing. I've actually just had a text message come up. There's a healthy salad making class on here in the building, and I've got in because someone's cancelled. So you are my lucky, my lucky star. What a coincidence is that? So we're both going to be going off now and focusing on healthy food.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic.
Thank you so much. Our
Thank you.
conversation was so enlightening for me as well, because
Oh,
as I
great.
said,
Yeah,
yeah, I consider myself, I've got diabetes. So I've done a lot to
you
educate
do.
myself about
Mm.
food. and about low sugar food and about the preservatives in food. But I've
Mm.
never made the mayonnaise. I don't eat a lot of sauces because I know there's sugar in them, but I've never thought about taking that next step and making them. And
Yeah.
even as I said, when I introduced you, look at your website, I really enjoyed just seeing the visuals of all of this beautiful, healthy food. And you make it look so easy, or it looks so beautiful, that I really want to go away and rethink some of the things that I'm making
Yeah.
and become
Start with
healthier.
start with simple things like, making your own granola, making your own bread, making your own mayonnaise, making your own cream cheese, making your own salad dressing. Just little
Yeah.
things. Go through your fridge, give it a good
Yes.
look, and say, okay, can I make this from scratch? And
Yeah.
chances are you
Okay. I'll go.
can.
That's what I'll do from here. That's where to from here for me. Brilliant, Faye. Well, look, the retreat sounds amazing. Good luck with it
Thank you.
all.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for your time. And
Thank you.
let's speak again
Yeah, thanks so much.
sometime about travel and about how the retreats are going and all of that, because retreats are huge, and it's one of the most common things I get asked about is
Yeah,
what retreats are happening, which ones are the best, and
yeah,
obviously it's the right person. So I'd love to hear how it all went once you've done it.
yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Faye. Lovely to meet you. Have a great
Cheers.
day.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe here and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for regular travel updates. You can also hear our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.